All right, one more topic in 2.1. So finding equations of graphs. So if I give you a graph, can you come up with the equation? That's what we're getting at. So when a graph is given and you're asked to find the equation for the graph, first, identify what type of graph it is and the general equation needed. So those basic equations that you should have memorized from the previous notes. Okay, plug in the HK that you can read off the graph. Use another given point for X and Y from the graph. So a very nice one. Usually they're labeled for you in your workbook. Calculate, solve for A, and then use the HK and the value of A to write your equation. All right, so let's just do some problems from worksheet 2.4 together to get us started. I think that's the easiest way. Okay, so first things first, if you want to grab 2.4, let's look at problem 1. Okay, you can stop this as you need to. So in problem 1, the very first thing I would be writing down for myself is just a quick sketch. Okay, I see that picture, and the first thing I want you to do is start with the correct original equation. So write the general form of that equation. That to you should be an absolute value. There's the general form that we want to have memorized. Read your HK or your vertex off of the picture, which is 0, 3. Find another point XY, which would be 1, 4. And now, if you will, that original equation had 5 variables, y, a, x, h, and k. You've got 4 of them. Okay, fill in everything except for the a. Very carefully. Resolve for a. Okay, so that'll give you a couple steps. A should be 1. We want to make sure that once we have a and we use the h and the k that were given to us, and we go back and fill this in. Okay, so I'm using the a value I just found, the h and the k that we had, and I'm going back to fill in the general equation from up top. Okay, so if you do that carefully, you would have that your equation should say y equals absolute value of x plus 3. Definitely check that that makes sense for the given graph, right? That's what this chapter is about, is you graphing these also. So notice the a value in the front is positive. Well, that to me says it should open up. And yes, indeed, our original graph that we drew next to 1 does open up, and so on and so forth. Okay, let's try number 2. So if you want to try 2 yourself and then join me, go for it. Okay, in number 2, first thing I notice, it's an absolute value. Okay, so where you go. I always want to see that original general equation from you. Show me that you've got it memorized correctly. Next thing you should be finding your vertex, HK, is 0, 3. Another x and y, which was 1 and 5. Plug in 4 out of 5 of the variables in the correct spot. Resolve for a. We should get what kind of number? That absolute value is opening up, so it better be positive. So I know immediately, guys, that if I get to like a equals -2, it's wrong. So don't write it down, okay? Go back and fix it. Go with what you logically know. And then if you write your final equation, you would have y equals 2 times the absolute value of x plus 3. All right, now that you're kind of catching on with what we're doing, let's try number 4. So I would draw myself just a quick sketch. You should think that's a parabola opening up. So what value do you expect a to be? Not specifically a number, but positive or negative? Correct, if you are telling me positive, because it opens up. There's your general equation that you should have memorized. Okay, you've got to memorize them, so get yourself in the habit of writing them for each problem. Your h and your k is 2, -5. X and y, 0, -3. Plug them all in very carefully and resolve for a. Again, your a value better be positive, and I'm getting a equals 2. And if you go back and use your A and your H and K to fill in your general equation, you should be looking at y equals 2, quantity x minus 2, quantity squared minus 5. All right, let's try 7. 7 to you should be looking like a cubic or S-shaped, if you will. Okay, I notice since it's going up from left to right, which was the general equation that we talked about, that means I do expect my A value to be positive in the end. Okay, so there's our general equation for you to write. The center, right, the center point is how we draw these, from the center point up and the center point down for the curvature. The center HK is 1,8. The X and the Y that was given is 2,9. Fill them all in correctly and resolve for A. And we should get A equals 1. Use the A, the H, and the K to go back and make your final answer. Y equals x minus 1 quantity cubed plus 8. Okay, number 9. On the type that we call arc-shaped, if you will, like number 9, the thing you should draw, go ahead and draw the picture, but the very first thing you should decide is it opens left or right, okay, because that's the discerning difference in our two equations. All right, so number 9, I notice that it opens to the right. That means the equation should be this general equation, okay, the one that has a positive in front of the x inside. All right, so your starting point then, your HK is 1, 1. Your XY is 2, 2. Again, a little plug and chug. Plug in what you know. Resolve for A. Now think about it before you start. What should A be? Positive or negative? If it is opening up, it should be positive. Okay, so plug in everything you know. Solve for A. I should get 1. Go ahead and fill it into the general equation. And then again, that at the end, making sure it makes sense. So I'm just pointing to the things that you should recognize. For instance, in front, right here, okay, opens up, since that's a positive number, and the number in front of x being positive should tell you it opens right. Okay. All right, why don't you think about 12? Try 12 and then come back and join me. So on 12, you should have drawn this arc shape. It's opening left. Left and right is what you always decide first, which means your general equation better be this one. Remember, there's 2 different ones for the arcs. If it opens to the left, it better have the negative in front of the parentheses in front of the x. Okay, your starting point, HK, was -1, -1. The XY was -2, -6. Plug in very carefully. Again, let's think before we start. What should A equal? Well, notice it is opening down, which means A better be a negative number. Okay, so keep going through A very carefully. And I did get A equals -5. All right, if you plug it into that original equation, you'll be sitting at this point. And this point is probably where I would analyze if it makes sense. Okay, which you'll see me do below. But just so you know, we're not going to leave our answers like that. We don't actually leave the negative in front of the parentheses in the root symbol, okay, in the square root. We go ahead and distribute it. So you should expect that your final answer is going to look like this that I have boxed. Y equals -5, square root of -x minus 1, and then -1 on the outside. Again, I would probably analyze maybe on the previous step. Okay, I'd probably analyze at this point, looking at the -5 in the front, saying, yes, that means it opens down, and it does, and the negative inside the absolute, or sorry, the square root, meaning that it opens to the left. Okay, but you can analyze it at either point as long as it makes sense to you. And that should help you since you're through a few of those problems there on that worksheet. Okay, see what you can do.